She called it reminiscing. He saw it for what it was, betrayal, elegantly disguised. While she packed her suitcase for her ex, mistaking his silence for weakness, he was already signing the papers, not out of emotion, but out of fact. Then came the call, the letter, the trip. Not as a reaction, but as a new beginning. No shouting, no drama, no performance. Just precision, composure, and dignity. Her once-in-a-lifetime offer turned out to be a trap, not for him, but for her. And while she tried to salvage what she had shattered, he was already building a life where she no longer had a place. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's a sentence. And when the shadow of the past tried to slip into his present again, it ran into a man who no longer yields, not an inch. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. I'm a 34-year-old man, ordinary in most ways, and one of 4 partners in a successful plumbing business. When this story begins, I'm married to Erica, my breathtaking 32-year-old wife, who often draws comments for her beauty, with some labeling her a trophy wife. She works as a secretary for the general manager at the local BMW dealership. We have an 8-year-old daughter named Melody and live comfortably in a nice home within an affluent neighborhood. We also own a vacation property on a well-loved island in the Baltic Sea. Erica and I first met when I was hired to install a central heating system in her parents' home. She was still living with them at the time and going through a rough patch, having just ended an engagement to a man infamously known around town as Butt Explosion. The breakup followed a scandalous incident. A furious husband had found him in bed with his wife and shot him in the bare backside with rock salt from a shotgun. That was the final straw. The man's real name was Riley Granger, and he'd built a reputation as a shameless ladies' man. But this time, his behavior had crossed a line. Riley's beginnings were unconventional. His mother had worked as a nanny in California and returned home pregnant. She named her son Riley, thinking it was the name of the American man she'd fallen for, though it was probably a lie. Eventually, she rekindled contact with Evan Granger, a quiet former classmate she'd once overlooked. Seeing him now as a reliable option, she married him. Evan, who had always been a bit of an outcast, was eager to step into the role of husband and father. Against expectations, their marriage thrived. They had 2 daughters of their own and transformed Evan's small computer store into a chain of over a dozen locations. After selling the business to a major corporation, they purchased a luxurious country estate and dove into horse breeding. Evan doted on Riley, determined to give him the kind of upbringing he himself never had. That generosity, combined with wealth and good looks, left Riley feeling invincible and entitled. He had no trouble attracting women until he met Erica. For the first time, Riley was smitten. Erica, however, told him she wouldn't sleep with anyone unless they were married. That went against everything Riley was used to. He pretended to go along, but his impulses won out. When Erica discovered his infidelity, she broke off the engagement, leaving her heartbroken. I saw an opportunity and invited her out, hoping to lift her spirits. To my amazement, she agreed. We had a wonderful night, which ended with her at my place. She opened up to me, saying she wanted to break out of the constraints she'd lived under and taste the freedom her friends enjoyed. Maybe it was a form of revenge on Riley, or maybe it was something deeper, but she decided to sleep with me that night. Despite my efforts afterward, she refused to go out with me again. Rumors swirled that Erica had entered a phase of wild partying and casual relationships, ironically, even hooking up with a few of Riley's former friends. Riley went off to college and kept up his playboy lifestyle, but he never seemed to recover from the blow that Erica, the one woman who had resisted him, had later been with his own circle. It wounded his pride. A year passed. Then I saw Erica again at a party. We started chatting and she told me she was ready to put the reckless lifestyle behind her. We spent more time together, slowly rebuilding trust and familiarity. Eventually, we became a couple. 3 years later, we got married. A few months into our marriage, Erica became pregnant with Melody. Around that time, I was working on a job for one of Riley's old friends, who took pleasure in sharing some disturbing gossip. According to him, Riley had once made a vow to sleep with Erica one day and make sure everyone knew about it. He said Riley always succeeded when he truly wanted a married woman. It wasn't exactly something a new husband wants to hear. I brought it up with Erica. She told me she'd never put herself in a situation where she'd be alone with Riley again, let alone let him act on such a promise. In time, that unsettling conversation slipped into the background of our lives. Years later, we learned Riley had married a wealthy woman from England and moved there. It seemed like we'd seen the last of him. Erica and I settled into what I'd describe as a normal marriage. Some ups, some downs. Then, one evening, the past came storming back without warning. It was a quiet Wednesday night. We were on the couch, half listening to a weather report predicting sunshine for the weekend. Suddenly, Erica turned toward me with an expression I hadn't seen before. "Landon, there's something important I need to tell you," she said. I looked at her, puzzled. "Okay. What's going on?" She hesitated. "It's not about anything recent," she said slowly. "It's something that happened before we met." Then came the name. "Do you remember Riley Granger?" My brow tightened. "You mean butt explosion?" "Yeah, of course I remember. The guy who got rock salt in the ass for sleeping with someone's wife. People still laugh about that. Last I heard, he hadn't changed a bit. Why?" I tried to lighten the mood. "Don't tell me someone finally shot him again." Her face had lost all color. "No, nothing like that. He's still in England. But he came back for a wedding recently. An old friend's. That's where he met Gabriella Miley Erickson. You know her, right?" I gave a slow nod as she continued. "They hit it off, and once he learned she knew me, he started digging, asking about me. Eventually, she gave him my number." A chill ran down my spine. I hadn't forgotten his promise. I kept my voice steady. "So, did he call?" "Yes," she answered, barely above a whisper. "We've talked a few times, just reminiscing." "Reminiscing?" I repeated, my chest tightening like a vice. A dry, bitter chuckle escaped me. What were they to each other, really? 3, maybe 4 months? And he had already betrayed her. Hardly the kind of romance worth revisiting. "You don't understand," she said, her tone low and urgent, nearly pleading. "We had dreams back then," she went on. "We imagined a future together. I just wanted to step into that for a second, just to remember." "Dreams?" I scoffed. "That future's dead. What's this actually about?" She hesitated, then chose her words carefully. "He asked to see me." I didn't even pause. "Naturally. This is the same guy who bragged he'd sleep with you just to prove a point. Hard to pull that stunt over FaceTime." Her complexion drained, my words landing like a slap. "That's not fair," she protested. "He's reaching out as a friend, that's all." "Perfect," I said. "Let's host him. Bring his wife, too. We'll throw a nice little dinner party, all very civilized." She shook her head. "That's not what he had in mind. He got this all-inclusive deal at a luxury resort in Ischia. He invited me to come along. His wife's afraid of flying, so she's not going, but she trusts him. She's fine with it, apparently." I stared at her like she'd just spoken in tongues. "You've lost it." "Just listen," she said, her voice trembling now. "I already told him yes. It's a once-in-a-lifetime offer." She tried to justify it. "We couldn't dream of affording anything like that right now, not with how much we're sinking into the summer place." My hands curled into fists. This wasn't just a reckless choice, it was a fracture. And she was right about one thing. Ischia wasn't just expensive, it was elite, indulgent, a place where the rich played and the rules bent. Still, none of that made this forgivable. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Are you still in love with that dirtbag?" I asked, anger cutting through my words. She broke. "No. God, no. I love you. You're the only person I've ever truly loved." I laughed, cold and sharp. "This is your definition of love? Jetting off for a week with some sleaze to a 5-star island getaway?" "Stop it!" she cried. "You're twisting everything. I never implied anything romantic would happen." She pressed on, frantic now. "He didn't ask for anything. I didn't offer anything. I would never betray you like that." That was it for me. My voice rose with finality. "No intimacy, no cheating? Then why the hell is he inviting you to the most luxurious resort in Italy? Don't insult my mind by talking about happy gifts. If you sincerely believe that he does not expect to sleep with you, then you are either lying or so naive that it causes pity. And don't pretend to be shocked when some sketchy photos or videos appear online." She shrank back, stunned. "You think I'd just whore myself out because Riley invited me on a free trip and his wife stayed behind?" "You tell me," I replied, voice cold as ice. "Did she actually tell you she was okay with this?" She faltered. "No." "Then yeah, that's exactly what this looks like. And here's the thing. Once you cross that line, there's no pretending you didn't. That kind of stain doesn't wash off." Tears welled in her eyes and streamed silently down her face. "You'll see," she whispered. "Nothing bad will happen. No one in Ischia will even know I'm there with him." I laughed again, the sound sharp as broken glass. "Except me. You really think I'm just going to keep this to myself?" For the first time, real fear flickered in her expression. The cost of that free vacation was sinking in. "Please," she whispered, "don't destroy us over this. I'll make it right when I come back, I swear." "There's only one way to make it right," I said, my voice like stone. "Call him. Tell him you're not going. Do it now." Her lips trembled. I can't." That was the end of it. I didn't need to hear anything more. Our marriage had already died. And strangely, a sense of calm settled over me as I turned away and muttered, "Then enjoy your holiday." I walked out and poured myself a tall glass of the best single malt I owned. We didn't exchange another word that night. By morning, she was composed again, cool and smug. With a sarcastic little smile, she said, "So, do you still think your wife's a whore?" I looked her in the eye. "Did you cancel the trip?" The smile faded. "No, I told you I can't." "Then yes," I said quietly. "That's exactly what I think." Her face hardened. "What do your opinions even matter anymore?" she snapped. We ate our breakfast in silence, the weight of everything unspoken hanging heavy in the air. Later, at work, I picked up the phone and made a call. Clara Smith answered, surprised to hear from me. "Want to grab lunch today?" I asked. She lived just down the street, mother to my daughter's best friend. About 5 months ago, she'd kicked out her cheating husband. She wasn't flashy like Erica, not some prize for show, but she had strength, a quiet kind of resilience. And I'd always noticed her. Over lunch, once the small talk had passed, I leaned closer and said, "I need to tell you something, but you've got to promise to keep it between us." She tilted her head, curious. "A secret? Should I brace for a twist?" "No twist," I said calmly. "In fact, it's more of an invitation. I'd like you and your daughter to come with Melody and me to Euro Disney in Paris. I'll cover everything." Clara's eyes narrowed, skeptical. "There has to be a catch." "There's not," I replied. "No hidden agendas, before, during, or after. To be honest, I think the trip would be smoother for me and more fun for Melody if you both came along." She hesitated, clearly turning it over in her mind. "And Erica? What's her take on this?" "She won't care," I answered, my tone going cold. She's too busy planning her little escape to Ischia with her ex. I paused, then added, I've made my decision. I'm getting a divorce. Clara fell silent. The pause between us was heavy until she finally said, All right, tell me, what's the plan? There isn't one yet, I admitted. But if you're in, we'll work it out together. Less than an hour after lunch, she called back. Count me in. That same night, she'd already sorted out childcare and met me at my office to start organizing. I half expected her to bring up room logistics, maybe suggest separate accommodations, but instead, she proposed something unexpected, a shared family room so the girls could bunk together. I didn't object. From that point on, we were in daily contact. We booked our flights to Paris, rented a car, and reserved a hotel near Euro Disney. Meanwhile, back at home, things with Erica had grown icy. We barely exchanged words. Whatever connection we had was gone, and intimacy was no longer even a thought. If she noticed, she didn't show it. One day, while washing her car at a gas station, I opened the glove box and found a folder she'd forgotten. Inside were printed pages from the Ischia hotel website and an email from Riley confirming their flights and ferry booking. It didn't feel like an accident, more like a calculated signal, but really, it just sealed the deal. Everything suddenly made sense, and Erica would soon see just how much. Had I confronted her, said cancel the trip or we're done, she might have stayed home. But why offer her an escape route? Not after she eagerly agreed to a luxurious vacation with that guy. That was the moment she crossed the line, and don't let her pretend she didn't know what kind of arrangement she was walking into. Yes, I was going on a trip too. Clara would be with us, but I'd made no demands, set no expectations. Clara was single, and by the time we boarded the plane, my divorce papers had already been filed. What happened from then on would unfold naturally. It wasn't the same thing Erica had done, not even close. When I told her Melody and I would be in Paris while she was away in Ischia, she barely reacted, didn't ask for details. Maybe we'd both given up on the idea of love, but for very different reasons. The night before her departure, she was packing while I lay silently in bed. She walked over and reached toward me, but I pulled away. Don't, I said sharply. She froze. Can we just talk? We will, I said, voice flat, after our trips. She left at dawn. As soon as I confirmed their ferry had docked in Ischia, I picked up the phone and dialed his wife. She lost it. This is unbelievable, she raged. Tracking her down wasn't hard. A single call to Erica's friend Nancy got me the last name. When someone goes by a ridiculous nickname like Butt Explosion, it's easy to trace them. A quick search brought me to the Granger family's landline. Then I sat down to write the letter. Dear Erica, the man you've run off with, your past and present lover, is nothing but a fraud. I spoke to his wife. She's at home, left behind to play hostess, while her husband sips wine with you in Ischia. She actually sounded calm, said she liked the island. Maybe you should have checked with her before believing every word that pathetic creep fed you. She's booking a flight now, plans to meet you both, face to face. Enclosed are copies of the divorce paperwork I filed today. From this point on, you're officially free to live however you please. Not that you weren't already. If I meant anything to you, this letter wouldn't be reaching you in a hotel room with him. Landon, soon to be your ex-husband, I faxed the letter and the documents directly to their hotel. The response was immediate. My phone didn't stop ringing. Landline, mobile, both. I ignored every call. But I did read her messages. An hour after the first one came the second. I'm flying home tomorrow. We need to talk. I replied with a single message. You didn't stumble into a hotel bed with him by mistake. You made a choice. Now deal with it. There was nothing more to say. Melody and I would be away for a while, and as for Erica, where she ended up was no longer my concern. That night, Abby Granger made a furious phone call. She had just gotten to Naples and was livid, demanding that Riley remove Erica from their shared hotel room immediately. 15 minutes later, Riley rang her back, insisting Erica had already left. If he was telling the truth, it meant she'd gathered her things and checked out within the hour. Abby assumed the whole ordeal had crushed any possibility of a romantic spark. The next morning, Clara, the girls, and I departed for our vacation. We flew Air France into Orly and picked up our rental car without a hitch. Navigating to the hotel was simple, thanks to the newly updated GPS. The girls were thrilled to be back together, and Clara and I easily settled into our familiar flow. The only hiccup was that our family suite had 2 grand-lit beds, not quite doubles, but definitely larger than twins. Clara and I shared a knowing look before breaking into laughter. Problem solved. Erica barely entered my thoughts, even though she returned home the day after I left. She bombarded me with messages, swearing nothing had happened, claiming she'd stayed alone in a different hotel. I sent a short reply. The moment you agreed to go with him, you cheated. And let's not rewrite the story. His wife kicked you out, not your guilt. Clara stayed out of those exchanges. We had an incredible time. 2 days at Euro Disney, then 1 more in Paris visiting the Eiffel Tower, shopping, and cruising along the Seine. On our final night, after the girls had fallen asleep, Clara leaned over and whispered, "Landon, I love you." I told her I loved her too. That night, we made love quietly and gently, careful not to wake the girls. It wasn't just physical, it felt transformative. Afterward, Clara looked at me and asked whether I'd still feel the same once we were home. I told her that real love doesn't vanish just because you've changed locations. The next morning, she surprised me. "Why don't you and Melody come live with Mia and me?" she said. I hesitated. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "If you meant what you said, if you love me, then my home is yours." I said yes. We both understood it was a bold decision. We'd only had 4 days together, seeing each other at our best. But we also knew that taking risks is sometimes how you find something lasting. Erica didn't take the news well. When she found out, she collapsed into tears, begging me not to leave while I packed my things for Clara's place. But she'd made her choice when she chose Ischia over our marriage. My first night at Clara's home was unforgettable. We lay in each other's arms for hours. I couldn't understand how her ex-husband had ever betrayed someone like her. Nobody's perfect, but I believed we could handle anything together. That belief was tested sooner than I expected. Just a month into our new life, an anonymous envelope landed on my office desk. Inside was a printed photograph of Clara, standing on a bar counter with her underwear around her ankles and her skirt lifted. The accompanying note claimed that everyone in her social circle knew she had also slept with Riley Granger and that the picture had been taken during a recent conference. At first, I was livid, but something told me to look again. As I calmed down, I inspected the photo more carefully. Despite its grainy quality, a few details stood out. The watch on her wrist wasn't the one she wore daily, and her haircut looked shorter than it was now. That night, I handed her the envelope. "Want to explain this?" I asked, watching her closely. Clara admitted she'd always feared something might have happened with Riley back at a raucous school party. She'd been too drunk to remember clearly. She'd long suspected that it was either something consensual or possibly worse, though Riley had always denied anything happened. When she saw the photo of herself on the bar, she laughed and fetched a photo album. She flipped to pictures from a goofy game at her company's Christmas party. The snapshots were time-stamped and showed a line of women participating in a silly contest, walking across the room with random underwear around their ankles. None of them had worn their own. Clara and I had always agreed that our pasts were in the past. What mattered now was identifying who had tampered with the image. Whoever had done it knew what they were doing and had an axe to grind. We never found out who sent the photo, but after Clara shared it with colleagues and offered a reward for any information, the harassment stopped. One of my biker friends even promised to have a word with whoever was behind it. After that, Clara and I felt more united than ever. Facing down that threat only reinforced what we already had. Eventually, Erica and I sold the vacation property. She used her share and a financial contribution from her parents to buy out my portion of the house. We agreed on joint custody of Melody. In practice, Melody spent plenty of time with both of us, often even on Erica's weeks. Clara welcomed her completely. Our daughters had become inseparable. Abby and I occasionally exchanged emails. That's how I found out that she and Butt Explosion had broken up, just 2 months after their ill-fated Ischia trip. The reason? He inadvertently left his phone behind at her parents' house after spending the weekend there. Her father, unable to resist the urge, went through the device and uncovered a series of explicit messages exchanged with another woman. That discovery shattered any remaining trust Abby had. She had already forgiven him once before, after his flirtatious behavior with Erica and Ischia, but this time it was irreparable. For her, the relationship was truly over. Erica had a difficult time in the aftermath of our breakup. The early days were filled with emotional turmoil, but eventually, she regained her sense of self. Today, she's thriving, confident, self-assured, and embracing her independence as a striking single woman. There was never any real desire between her and Butt Explosion to revisit what once was. Too much had been said and done during their breakup, and whatever friendship had existed was beyond repair. Since then, Erica has dated a few people. The first relationship ended almost as soon as it began, barely a month, largely because the guy was socially clumsy and hard to connect with. Her current partner, however, seems to be a much better match. Even Melody has come around to him, offering her blessing to the new romance. The only issue is that he's still picking up the pieces from a messy divorce, one that left him emotionally raw and financially depleted, as his ex-wife left with the lion's share of their assets. As for Clara and me, we're deep into wedding planning. Things are aligning beautifully, not just between the two of us, but also between our daughters. When we first blended our households, we spent many nights talking about the life we wanted to build together. We don't see eye to eye on every detail, but we're committed to resolving our differences with understanding and care. Our bond feels more solid than ever, especially when it comes to our physical intimacy. Recently, we agreed to start trying for a baby. We're actively pursuing that dream, and even our girls are excited about the possibility of having a new sibling join the family. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend, and if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.